After the college entrance examination, I was collecting waste in an upscale community. When I came to Astronaut, a top student's home, he mocked me. "Oh, you failed the college entrance examination and now you're collecting garbage?" The next day, he was carrying a snakeskin bag and following me to pick up bottles. When I glared at him, he looked very sad. I also did poorly in the exam. At the beginning of the term, the two of us were holding Tingshui University's admission notices and looking at each other in front of the school gate. One after the college entrance examination. Having nothing to do, I was planning to collect waste. Old books and bottles. Our family started with waste recycling. My dad is known as the king of garbage. Every time he hears this unique nickname, he always pats his beer belly cheerfully. The king of garbage is the king of garbage. At least it's a title. As the daughter of the king of garbage, I have developed a sharp eye for picking up bottles since I was a child. But my dad said, "Kid, no matter how good you are at picking up bottles, you can only make quick money. Our family lacks a cultured person. You work hard and get into Tingshui University or Peking University to bring honor to our ancestors." So, I changed from focusing on picking up bottles to focusing on studying. With this effort, I accidentally got the first place in the whole school and remained firmly in that position. Unfortunately, the arrival of a transfer student completely broke my legend. The transfer student is called Astronaut. It is said that he came back from abroad. He is wearing all famous brands from head to toe. My desk mate said that the watch on his hand could buy a cow. I looked up and rolled my eyes. That watch could buy a golden cow. Because the transfer student was unfamiliar with the place, the class teacher arranged for him to sit with me. My desk mate suddenly became my former desk mate. I grinned at the transfer student and stretched out a hand. "Nice to meet you." He coldly glanced at me, ignored my friendly gesture, and sat down with a straight face. I snorted in my heart. What's he pretending for? Although he ignored me, I am the monitor after all and must treat him warmly. During morning exercises, I pulled him. "Classmate, our morning exercises now are a combination of traditional martial arts and square dancing. Let me teach you a move first. How about white crane spreads its wings?" He nodded coldly. He didn't see the mischievous light in my eyes at all. So, when everyone was doing eagle takes off, he was there alone doing white crane spreads its wings. A completely different spark. After morning exercises ended, I quickly and quietly hid in the canteen. But I was still caught by him. He gritted his teeth and pulled me out from the corner. His face was like that of King Yama. "Sylvia, did you do it on purpose?" He drank too much for milk powder. At 1.8 meters tall, although he is tall and thin, it can be seen that he has a stable stance. Because of the kick I gave him, he didn't move at all. However, his eyes were even more terrifying. Before he lost his temper, I quickly recognized the situation and begged for mercy first. "Boss, spare me. I was just joking with you. Look, you are always so serious. How can you fit into our lively environment?" He closed his eyes, let me go, and said, "Don't do it again." After he left, I patted my chest and said to the trembling boss next to me, "Boss, give me a pack of spicy strips to calm my nerves." During the time when I was at the same table with Astronaut, we could be considered to get along in harmony. There was no drawing a line in the middle, no estrangement, and no telling on each other. My former desk mate said about us, "You two are really respectful to each other like a harmonious couple." I gave him a big slap and pushed him against the wall. "Did your Chinese teacher teach physical education?" These two words are used to describe couples. If you are uneducated, you should study hard. When Astronaut saw me playing around with my former desk mate, the corner of his mouth curved coldly, and he continued to lower his head and do calculations. I suddenly had a sense of crisis. This kid is so hardworking and comes from abroad. Maybe if I'm not careful, he will surpass me. So, in the following classes, the classroom was like this. Teacher, Who can answer this question? Teacher. I can. I volunteered. After I finished calculating the problem confidently and was about to step down from the podium, astronaut stood up. Teacher. She made a mistake. Then, under everyone's gaze, he went forward and corrected my mistake. The whole class burst into thunderous applause. He smiled slightly. I gritted my teeth in hatred. The whole classroom became a battlefield for me and astronaut. We battled from the class to the grade level, then to the whole school, and finally to the recommended admission. There is only one recommended admission quota, and it can only be chosen between me and him. I calculated my comprehensive score and said to my dad, "The king of garbage. Alas, daughter may disappoint you. Farewell. My Tsinghua University and Peking University." As a result, when the final recommended admission quota was announced, it was actually me. My dad was so excited that he performed a golden snake dance on the spot in the company. The employees all thought he had some kind of epilepsy. I went to find astronaut. But astronaut refused to see visitors. His mother conveyed his words with an apologetic face. Astronaut said that he didn't succeed in the recommended admission and is in a very bad mood. During this time, he will not eat or drink and rely on his own strength to get into his ideal university. Let's bless him. First of all, astronaut. This cold-faced King Yama would never say such words as in a very bad mood. But since astronaut won't see me, I can't dig a hole and get in. Time passed quickly. The college entrance examination ended. I didn't have to take the college entrance examination, but I cared about someone's college entrance examination. In case his mentality is unstable, and he fails the exam again because I took the recommended admission quota, his life will be ruined. Repeat a grade? With his thinner than paper skin, repeating a grade is impossible. But the results will have to wait for a month. My dad had already signed me up for various tourist groups, like those to Dubai and Maldives, as expensive as possible. He even gave me a black card. But I looked very solemn. Dad, I don't want to travel. I want to experience life. When my dad found out how I was experiencing life, he was pounding on the table in his large office again, crying bitterly. Oh, how can my daughter collect waste? She is a top student. So what if she is a top student? Can't a top student pick up bottles? Unexpectedly, on my first day of collecting waste, I met astronaut. I haven't seen him for months. He seems to have grown taller again. Recently, I've been chasing empresses in the palace. I blurted out, "Astronaut, have you grown taller again?" Astronaut gave me a cold look. If I'm not mistaken, on the left side of that look is written, "You are an idiot." And on the right side is written, "Are we familiar?" I chuckled. Just kidding. The college entrance examination is over. There must be a lot of unwanted books at your home. Give them to me. Give them to me. We are old classmates. I'll give you a 95 discount. Astronaut put his hands on his chest and looked down at me. In fact, astronaut can be described as handsome as jade. In the past, I was only focused on competing with him intellectually and courageously. I ignored his divine face. The most special thing about his face is his pair of peach blossom eyes, with thin eyelids, accompanied by shallow-lying silkworms and thick and long eyelashes. A pair of eyes are like windows to the soul, as if they can talk. His thin lips parted slightly. You failed the college entrance examination. Did you come to collect waste? This guy is doing it on purpose. I coughed softly and straight in my back. I've been recommended to Tsinghua University. Oh, I almost forgot. He nodded. So, did you come to show off? I held up the scale in my hand. Brother, I'm here to collect waste. Hurry up. Now the competition for collecting waste is very fierce. After finishing here, I still have to collect from another family. Astronaut snorted and turned to walk into the house. I held onto the door frame and stuck my neck in and shouted, Remember to bring out unwanted books and paper boards. If there are bottles and cans, that's fine too. Come in if you have legs. Get out of here. TSK. Inviting guests in is still so fierce. This isn't the first time I've been to Astronaut's house. Last time I came to find him, but he refused to see me. The bedroom door was tightly closed. Under Auntie's pitying and sympathetic gaze, I drank a cup of black tea and took away a box of imported chocolates. Before leaving, Auntie touched my head. Come and play again next time. I just don't understand why Auntie is so good to me. Oh, right. Last time she asked me what my parents were doing. I said they were collecting waste. When Astronaut came out and saw me standing straight, his sword-like eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Sit down. I smiled. No, because I'm collecting waste today. I'm dressed relatively simply. Also, I'm afraid of soiling their sofa. As a result, Astronaut's face became even more sullen. Sit down if I tell you to. I quickly sat down. What would you like to drink? I smiled. Just plain water is fine. He seemed to hear something unbelievable again. His tone rose slightly. Let me make you a cup of coffee. Me. Brother. I'm parched and my throat is on fire from collecting waste. You offer me coffee. Sure enough. You are still holding a grudge against me for taking your spot. Astronaut lives in a high-end community. I know this community because my dad also bought a set, saying it's a reward for me being recommended to Tingshui University. Judging from Aunt Lynn's speech and temperament, it can be seen that their family is extraordinary. Moreover, it's the kind of cultured family. Unlike my family, nouveau rich. When Astronaut came out with coffee, he saw me looking left and right, like Grandma Yu entering the Grandview Garden. What are you looking at? He asked. Oh, nothing. I just think your home decoration is very beautiful. Unlike my home, it's all shiny gold. If you don't wear sunglasses when entering, you'll be blinded. In comparison, my dad's taste is worrying. After commenting on the decoration style of his home, I met Astronaut's gaze. I found that he was staring at me intently. There was a light in his eyes that I couldn't understand. I chuckled. What's wrong? He withdrew his gaze and pursed his lips. A house is just a place to shelter from the wind and rain. Whether it's beautiful or not doesn't make much difference. I nodded in agreement. I always think that even if there are 10,000 acres of fertile land, one can only eat 3 pecks. Even if there are 10,000 mansions, one can only sleep 3 feet at night. I don't understand why my parents are so keen on buying houses. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. I don't know how many burrows my parents have. I took a sip of coffee and my eyes lit up. I thought it would be extremely bitter, but it turned out to be sweet. Astronauts at opposite me. I added sugar. Oh, thank you. He paused and said, You're welcome. After drinking coffee, I was about to pack up the old books. Seeing my skillful movements, Astronaut squatted down to help me. I waved my hand and refused. Hey. No. Don't scratch or bump your delicate hands. I used to do this all the time. I also watched my parents do it. It's like an instinctive action as natural as eating. But Astronaut grabbed my wrist. Don't be brave. Your hands are all red from the rope. I looked at his hand holding mine. His fingers are long and slender, with distinct joints. At first glance, it's very suitable for playing the piano. The palm was stuck to my wrist, warmed with a tingly feeling. The two of us stood quietly like a machine that had lost power. I looked at him. He was holding my wrist. If there was a deep and affectionate background music added, it would be a perfect idol drama scene. Just at this moment, a pleasant voice came. Astronaut. The two of us turned our heads to look together. Standing at the door was a Barbie doll. Sorry. It's not that I'm describing randomly, but this girl is simply like sisters with the first Barbie doll my dad bought for me. Wearing a pink lace dress, lace stockings, curly hair draped over the shoulders. and carrying a small lace bag. She said in a sweet and sticky clipped voice, "Brother astronaut. I'm back." My goosebumps all stood up and left home. I looked at Astronaut. He didn't show any joy at seeing an old acquaintance, at all. Instead, like he had been constipated for many years, his handsome face was filled with extremely complicated expressions. I roughly interpreted it. On the left side of his face was written, "Why did she come back?" And on the right side was written, "What should I do?" A lace princess saw our hands on top of each other. Her pretty face fell, and she took a few steps to come in front of us. I quickly pulled my hand away. The little lace princess sized me up and said, "Who are you?" "TSK. Another one who has returned after drinking for a ninkand is pretending." I deliberately teased her. "I'm fine. Thanks." Astronaut, who was watching the show on the side, raised an eyebrow and looked at me with interest. The little lace princess looked disgusted. "Country bumpkin. So low. You don't deserve to stand in this house. You have insulted Astronaut brother's home." Astronaut put his hand to his forehead, looking unable to bear looking directly. The corners of my mouth twitched. "I can tolerate you speaking English, but you are mixing Chinese and English." "Yao xiuo." I blurted out. "What show?" The little lace princess had never heard this dialect. I looked at my watch and felt that if I continued playing with them, today's task would not be completed. I clapped my hands. "I won't disturb you to catching up. I'll leave first." As I said this, I quickly picked up the old books in my hand. "Oh, so you are collecting garbage." The Barbie princess looked disgusted. "Big sister. This is waste." Which is essentially different from garbage. Astronaut took the heavy books in my hand without hesitation. "I'll see you off." "No." He looked at me warningly. I swallowed. "Then I'd better obey than be respectful." Astronaut perfunctorily said to the little lace princess, "Sit wherever you want. I'll go out for a while." As he said this, he hurriedly closed the door, as if being chased by wild dogs. When coming out of the elevator and seeing the sunlight outside, Astronaut looked as if he had been reborn. I asked him, "Is that Barbie princess just now your childhood sweetheart?" Hearing the words, "childhood sweetheart," Astronaut's handsome face was as black as the stone beside him. "Not at all. It's just that our two families know each other. You also returned from abroad. I feel that your Mandarin is quite standard." Not only is it standard, but he also writes beautifully. I remember in the first half of my sophomore year, when the province held a calligraphy competition, Astronaut won the first place. I also saw that piece of calligraphy. It was flowing like clouds and water, grand and expansive. Moreover, this guy can recite the difficult trodes in Shu, and the memorial to Emperor Wen of Chen, even more fluently than I can. "I am Chinese." He threw down a sentence and walked in front of me, looking at his back. I always felt extremely tall. Unexpectedly, Astronaut accompanied me to collect waste for a whole day. I counted the money in my hand and happily called my dad. "Dad, guess how much money I received today?" 200 yuan. 200 yuan. My dad blindly praised me on the other end. "My daughter is really wonderful." After hanging up the phone, when Astronaut saw me smiling so much that my eyes and eyebrows were not recognizable, he was also infected by my emotions. "Just 200 yuan. Are you so happy? This is earned through my hard work." "Of course I'm happy. This is called a sense of achievement." He propped his forehead with one hand, and looked at me quietly. I was embarrassed by his stare. "Well, you have accompanied me for a tiring day. I'll treat you to a meal." I originally wanted to ask him whether he wanted to eat Chinese food or French cuisine. Because aren't these what people like them love to eat? In fact, my dad hates eating steak very much and thinks it's bloody. He thinks that since people have finally reached the top of the food chain, why should they still eat raw food? But, in high society, your social status is judged by how well done your steak is in the vintage of your red wine. Extremely ironic. I want to eat spicy hot pot. Astronaut made a request before I could speak. I dug my ear. Did I hear it wrong? He wants to eat spicy hot pot? Are you sure you want to eat spicy hot pot? When did he become so down to earth? Yes. He nodded. Aren't you afraid of gutter oil? His face stiffened for a moment. Aren't you afraid of cockroaches and my swimming in the pot? His eyebrows knitted into a character. Aren't you afraid of the waiter putting his thumb in the bowl? Astronaut ground his teeth. If you don't want to treat me to a meal, you can make it clear. Just kidding with you. I know there is a spicy hot pot place that is extremely delicious. I won't tell ordinary people. He looked at me with shining eyes. So, in your heart, I'm not an ordinary person? For I nodded. Yes. In my heart. You are not an ordinary person. I felt his breathing pause for a moment. His eyes were as bright as daylight, filled with expectant sparks. I said with a smile, "You are from class 2. Astronaut." Seeing him angrily brush his sleeves and leave, I knew that he was extremely angry. I pulled Astronaut and came to an old couple shop that had been open for more than 10 years. When the proprietors saw me, she said with a smile, "Sylvia, you're here again. Oh, you've brought a little boyfriend. He's really handsome." I thought Astronaut would refute, but unexpectedly, he didn't say a word. I waved my hand. "Classmate. Don't misunderstand. Don't misunderstand." Astronaut on the side snorted. Did I say something wrong again? Seeing that he was about to sit down, I said wait, and then took out a tissue and wiped the stool for him. Then I made a gesture of invitation. He raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing? Aren't you a neat freak? Taking care of you." He gave me a blank look. "You are the neat freak. Dude. If I were a neat freak, would I still collect waste? Boss. 2 bowls of spicy hot pot. Make it spicy, hot, and numbing." Sure. After the spicy hot pot came up, I started eating quickly, sweating profusely. Astronaut on the side ate as slowly as if he were having Western food. He even had time to instruct me. "Eat slowly. No one is competing with you." Delicious. I raised my head, with tears in my eyes. Half from the spicinces and half from being touched. How long has it been since I last ate spicy hot pot? It must be more than half a year. Since my mom came back from some rich lady's tea party. She threw away all the freshly stewed pork knuckles, pig trotters and beef at home. She said that from now on, only delicate, nutritious meals and snacks can be eaten at home. My dad and I have been eating the so-called nutritious meals for half a year. Every night. We are so hungry that we scratch the wall. One night, my dad and I quietly went to the kitchen to eat instant noodles at the same time. When the father and daughter, whose eyes were green with hunger, met, they were speechless and choked with sobs, with only countless stares. But there are also advantages. Since giving up these high-protein and high-purine foods, my dad's high blood pressure, high blood sugar and high blood lipid have been effectively controlled. His beer belly has also shrunk a lot. I have also become much thinner. By the way, I still remember that at that time, I hadn't eaten meat buns for so long and was extremely eager for them. Later, when I was making breakfast, I had hypoglycemia and everything went black. It was Astronaut who supported me. When the little stars in front of my eyes disappeared, I met his worried eyes. He asked me in a low voice, "What's wrong? Do you want me to take you to the infirmary? Is this tone and attitude the same opponent who argued with me in class?" I was weak and said, "There's no need to go to the infirmary. I want to eat meat buns. The kind of big meat buns that is oil." That day, I ate 5 big meat buns in one go. When Astronaut stopped me and said, "Don't eat anymore. If you eat anymore, your stomach will explode." I looked at him with teary eyes and said incoherently, "Thank you. I haven't eaten meat for so long." I remember that after I said this, Astronaut's eyes looking at me were pity mixed with sympathy. Just like now. Yes. Yes. It's this kind of saintly look. As if to save all living beings. Why are you looking at me like this? Is there something on my face? I touched my face with my greasy hand. He pursed his lips, took out a tissue, and carefully wiped the oil stains on my face. I was stunned. Can I ask what you are doing? He asked instead. Starting from tomorrow, I will collect waste with you. His eyes were like the spring scenery outside the window. Rippling. He added. Anyway. I'm idle anyway. Consider it experiencing life. I wanted to say something but hesitated. He looked at me. Just say whatever you want. I cleared my throat. Then I'll be straightforward. If you want to collect waste with me, how should we calculate the money we earn? 50-50? 50-50 is too painful. His originally expectant eyes darkened, and he said resentfully. A block of wood cannot be carved. What's wrong with me? After eating spicy hot pot, I was about to pay. Astronaut bought the bill before me. I was surprised. He explained. I will follow you tomorrow. Of course. I should pay for this meal. All right. Whatever you say. It's getting late. Let me take you back. Astronaut said. I waved my hand. No need. My dad will come to pick me up later. He pursed his lips. Then I'll accompany you and wait for your dad to come. It's relatively remote here. It's not safe for a girl like you. I leaned closer to look at him. Hey. Astronaut. I didn't know you were so gentlemanly before. It seems that you can't judge a person by appearance. Because I was so close, I could see the fine fuzz on his face. Good grief. This kid's skin is better than that of many girls. There are no pores or blackheads at all. Moreover, his ears are like dyed with rouge, making me want to touch them. But I held back. He avoided my eyes and his tone was a bit unsteady. Are you praising me or scolding me? I patted him on the shoulder. Comrade. Of course I'm praising you. I was thinking about whether my dad would come to pick me up in his newly bought sports car or business car. As a result, he came on an electric scooter. He was also wearing a Pikachu helmet. I couldn't help but give my dad a thumbs up. What is called being young at heart even when old is probably him. My dad rode the scooter and came up to me. He took off his helmet and gave a simple smile. Daughter. Dad is here to pick you up. Have you been waiting impatiently? After saying that, he looked at the side. This young man is your friend, right? Do you want Uncle to give you a ride? I squinted at this little electric scooter. It's overloaded. Fortunately, Astronaut had self-awareness and waved his hand. No. Uncle. Sylvia. Goodbye. I sat on my dad's little electric scooter and asked him, why did you suddenly drive a little electric scooter? Hey. This is Uncle Chen's. I haven't driven it for a long time and just wanted to have some fun. Don't worry. Daughter. The car is nearby. How could Dad let you be cold? No. Dad. I really like this kind of convertible. Let's go for a ride by the river. Dad said in surprise. Okay? Okay. 5. The result of having fun until midnight is that both my dad and I caught a cold. But at the same time, we both went to work with strong wills but weak bodies. He's okay. He sits in the office and gives directions, while I collect waste while blowing my nose. Astronaut couldn't stand it anymore. You'd better go to the hospital. I'm afraid you'll collapse soon. I looked up and sneezed and quickly wiped my nose. Pooh. 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 You're a crow's mouth. I will live longer than a turtle. Are you sure? Turtles live for 1,000 years. Do you also want to live that long? Well, that's not necessary. Wait. Why did it become a turtle? I suspect he's insinuating me. Next. We go to Aunt Wang's house. She has a lot of waste at home. Astronaut couldn't persuade me and could only follow me step by step. As soon as we arrived at Aunt Wang's door, I smelled a pungent smell. Astronaut's face darkened. It's a gas leak. Aunt Wang is still inside. I was about to rush in. Astronaut stopped me. You call the police. I'll go in and look for someone. Astronaut. He tore off his clothes, dipped them in mineral water, covered his mouth and nose, and rushed into the house. After I called the police, I followed closely behind in the same way. Inside the house, the windows were tightly closed and the smell was pungent. Astronaut. When he saw me following in, his face was gloomy. But at this time there was no time to scold me. He walked into the house. Aunt Wang was lying on the bed, motionless. There was danger at any time in the house. After we confirmed that Aunt Wang was still breathing, Astronaut carried her out on his back. After everything was settled, the police uncle praised our courageous actions, and at the same time criticized us for being reckless. Aunt Wang is not in life-threatening danger. When she saw me, she hugged me and cried, "Anon, I can't live like this anymore." I know that after Aunt Wang's son and daughter got married, they left the two old people in their hometown. Aunt Wang's husband has passed away. She lives a difficult life by collecting waste alone. I often bring things to see her. Aunt Wang, why don't you come to my house? Aunt Wang wiped her tears and looked doubtful. To your house? I nodded. Our house is very large. About how large is it? You need a vehicle to get around inside. It should be large enough for Aunt Wang to get lost. After comforting Aunt Wang, I walked to the door. Unexpectedly, Astronaut was already waiting at the door. Are you going to take in Aunt Wang? He looked serious. I nodded. Have you thought it through? This is not taking in a cat or a dog, but a person, and an elderly person at that. He analyzed. I frowned. What does he mean by that? Does he think that because Aunt Wang is old, she should be left in a corner to fend for herself? Otherwise, if she is left alone and miserable, things like today will still happen. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that while helping others, you should also consider your own ability, and not make decisions on impulse. I looked at him quietly. He has always been very rational. I know that. However, sometimes being too rational is a bit cold-blooded. I might be a bit irritable because of a cold. Impatiently, I said, I'm not asking you to take in Aunt Wang. Why do you worry so much? After saying this, I already regretted it. But words once spoken are like water spilled. They can't be taken back. Astronaut was stunned at first. Then he quietly glanced at me. With a cold curl of his lips, he said, yes, I was being nosy. We parted on bad terms like this. After Aunt Wang was observed in the hospital for one night and confirmed to be fine, I asked Uncle Chen to take her to my house. 6 on the 5th day of our Cold War with Astronaut, I decided to apologize to him. A wise person once said, the one who apologizes first is not necessarily in the wrong, but must be generous. I sent a message to Astronaut. Dear, do you still collect waste? After sending it, I stared at my phone, waiting nervously. 10 minutes later, a single word came from there. Collect. I grinned. After not seeing him for a while, Astronaut had a haircut. The whole person is even cleaner and more handsome. Just wearing a simple t-shirt. He is like the most dazzling light, directly piercing into your heart. I watched him walk towards me step by step and couldn't take my eyes off him. There was a voice in my heart telling me, Sylvia, you're in trouble. You're falling in love. After selling the waste, I asked him, in a few days it will be my birthday. Would you like to come to my house? He nodded. It would be my honor. I sent him my home address. After reading it, his eyes were full of pity and distress. What's that expression on your face? I was completely confused. He lowered his eyelashes, covering the emotions in his eyes. Reaching out, he touched my head and said gently, okay, I will definitely attend on time. When I got back home, I touched the top of my head. There was still the residual warmth of his palm on it. Astronaut. He touched my head. Dad swaggered over from the side. Daughter. This is your first birthday after becoming an adult. We have to hold it grandly. Spend as much money as possible. Invite all your classmates to come and have fun. Or let's keep it low-key. In the past birthdays, all I needed was a bowl of longevity noodles, 2 poached eggs, and gifts from my parents. That's enough. Unfortunately, my dad is determined this time. I know that he wants to show off again that I was recommended to Tingshui University. Forget it. Let him be arrogant for once. Back in my room, I called my classmates one by one. 90% of them were willing to attend. Only Sophia, the class beauty, was sarcastic on the other end of the phone. Oh, you're a poor person. You're having a birthday banquet? Can you afford a cake? I smiled. Just come. You want a cake? I'll stuff you to death. In the evening, my best friend Dari and a message to me. Sister, they have created a group and are criticizing you. Sophia is the group leader. Me? Then, Ariana directly sent me several screenshots of the conversation. I took a look and wanted to laugh. Basically, they were criticizing me for being poor but pretending to be rich. Clearly a person who collects waste but still tries to look good by overstating things. They said I was overreaching. Tomorrow they must harshly mock me and make me embarrassed. I was completely speechless. With a sincere heart, I invited them to my birthday banquet. But they are thinking about dealing with me? Where is the basic trust between people? Ariana was also a bit worried. Sylvia, I still have some money here. Let's buy a big cake. We mustn't let them look down on us. By the way, my sister has an empty apartment. I asked her to lend it to us for the birthday banquet. I was very touched but refused. There's one thing I want to tell you. What's the matter? Actually, I am the daughter of Edgar. On the other end, there was the sound of a mobile phone dropping to the ground. After a moment, a pig-like howling came. What did you say? Say it again. Whose daughter are you? Edgar's. There was a sound of banging one's head on the ground over there. In fact, my dad is not that special. He made his fortune by collecting waste. But he is on an international route. I once asked my dad, Dad, exactly how much money do we have? Dad mused. Probably 1 or 2 laps around the earth. The next day, Ariana was the first to come to my house. After visiting my house, she hugged my thigh and started making starry eyes. Rich woman. Food. Hungry. I shook her off. Shame on you. Ariana got up. Seriously. I've never seen a second-generation rich person as down-to-earth as you. I gave her a sideways glance. Just say I'm rustic. However, I am indeed a bit low-key. I don't wear famous brands. Don't go home in luxury cars. Don't cause trouble. And definitely don't show off my wealth. My image at school is just an ordinary student, who is a bit stingy and buried in hard study. In the afternoon, Ariana was playing games in my room, while I went to the back garden to dig soil. Why dig soil? Mainly because Aunt Chen gave me a handful of sunflower seeds. I want to plant them and imagine the magnificent sight of a bunch of sunflowers smiling towards the sun. I was busy and sweating profusely when Aunt Chen came running to call me. Miss, there is a boy outside looking for you. He said his name is Astronaut. Huh? Why is he here so early? The student union event doesn't start until 7 in the evening. But it's good that he's here. He can help me dig soil. I'm so sore from digging alone. Having an extra helper is good. Aunt Chen, you can go and rest. I'll find him myself. When I appeared in front as Astronaut looking dusty and disheveled, he looked at me with some distress. But I ignored the inexplicable distress in his eyes and pointed at the delicate box in his hand. Is this a birthday present for me? He made a soft sound from his throat. I smiled. My hands are too dirty. You hold it for me. It's okay. He walked straight up to me, took out a tissue from his pocket, and carefully wiped the sweat and dirt on my face. After picking up trash. What are you doing now? I was embarrassed to say that I was planting flowers. So I casually made up an excuse. Oh, I'm loosening the soil in the back garden. The distress in his eyes deepened. Did they make you do all these things? What? I felt that astronaut, and I might be talking at cross purposes. But I couldn't figure out exactly where the mistake was for a moment. For those questions that I don't want to think about, I usually put them aside for the time being. So I said, Astronaut, can you help me? Unexpectedly. Astronaut, who came to the birthday party, neatly dressed and clean, really squatted on the ground and helped me dig soil. Moreover, he was extremely enthusiastic. The most crucial thing is that he wouldn't let me help. I was a bit embarrassed. Are you tired? Why don't you take a break? He looked up and wiped the sweat. His eyes as gentle as water, with a galaxy seemingly falling inside. I'm not tired. You go and rest in a cool place. Then I'll go pour you a glass of water. When I came back after pouring the water, Astronaut was already done. Thank you for your hard work. I took out a clean handkerchief and wiped the sweat on his forehead. He also cooperated by bending down. Up close. His eyes were even clearer. Like black agate stones. His eyelashes were slightly curled, seemingly able to stir people's hearts. His thin lips were slightly pink, just like the peach blossom cake I just ate. Sylvia, why are you staring at me? Astronaut suddenly asked, with teasing laughter in his eyes. 7 Unexpectedly. I was caught red-handed. I was a bit embarrassed and annoyed. Who's looking at you? I'm just studying why your skin is so good, and there's not a single pore. The originally expectant look in Astronaut's eyes dimmed again. I silently took a step back. As I know him, this expression means he's about to lose his temper again. But he gave me a sidelong glance and said unhappily, Why are you avoiding me? I'm afraid you'll scold me again. He let out a long breath and reached out to touch my head. Sylvia. Sylvia. You're really a blockhead. Right. Last time he said I was like a piece of rotten wood that cannot be carved. This time he said I'm a blockhead. Thank you very much. After a while, I realized. Dude. Did you wash your hands just now? Astronaut silently removed his hand from my head. I wanted to cry but had no tears. Well, I have to wash it again. Look at us. All sweaty and stinky. Why don't we take a bath? I led Astronaut to the second floor, seeing me being so familiar with the way. Astronaut asked me carefully. What do you usually do? Oh. He's asking what I do at home after the college entrance examination. Right? I think in families like his with a scholarly atmosphere, probably Astronaut spends his time practicing calligraphy and playing the piano at home. As for me, I either lie on the bed and play with my phone. I never get out of bed except for eating and going to the toilet. Or I play games until I'm completely immersed. Alas. Thinking about it this way, my life is really plain and unadorned. I stopped outside a guest room. You go in first. I'll ask Aunt Chen to bring you towels and clothes. Astronaut paused for a moment and was a bit worried. Can I take a bath in this room casually? Will it affect you? Affect me? Where does this come from? It's not troublesome. How is it troublesome? I was completely confused. I'll go call Aunt Chen. You go in quickly. Someone will bring you things later. After telling Aunt Chen, I also went back to my room to take a bath. When Ariana saw me, she was very curious. What did you do? You're all covered in dirt and sweat. I went to plant flowers. By the way, Astronaut has also arrived early. Shall we play games together later? The cold-faced king of hell is also here. Ariana looked horrified. You want me to play games with him? I'm so scared that my bile is about to come out. Okay. Is Astronaut that scary? Ariana enumerated one by one for me. Listening to Astronaut described by Ariana, I couldn't help but wonder. Is this the same person? Is the person you described? With a poker face. Like an AI robot and without emotions. Really, Astronaut? I asked. Ariana nodded seriously. I touched my chin. But this unemotional person will collect waste with me. Will sit in a shabby little shop with me and slurp noodles sweating profusely. When I have low blood sugar. He will buy me 5 meat buns under the huge pressure of the cafeteria ant. Will squat on the ground and help me dig the soil regardless of the new clothes he just changed. I shook my head seriously. You're talking nonsense. He's not that kind of person. Ariana looked at me with a gossipy face. I ignored her wretched gaze. Went into the bathroom to wash my hair and take a bath. And by the way, I made a facial mask for myself. I thought that today is my birthday after all. I can't be too shabby. I'd better put on some makeup. Then change into some clothes. When I came out of the cloakroom, Ariana's mouth opened into an O shape. Is this still the Sylvia I know? I lifted my skirt and made a princess bowing posture. Quite affected. Of course not. Please call me Lynn Princess Meryl and Sylvia. Ariana tut d. We'll go and slap Sophia and them in the face later. Unfortunately, before I could slap their faces, I slapped Astronaut's face first. There was a noisy sound outside the door. Vaguely listening, it seemed to be the voices of my dad and Astronaut. The two seemed to be arguing. Ariana said with a glib tongue. Oh ho. Father-in-law and future son-in-law are arguing. I gave her a blank look and hurried to put out the fire. Outside the door, Astronaut looked at my dad seriously. Just like catching a truant bad student. With a very serious face. And my dad stood there in a daze. Dad. Astronaut. What are you doing? Hearing the sound, the two looked at me together. My dad was like catching a life-saving straw. He ran towards me with his small beer belly. Looking aggrieved. Daughter. I don't know what's going on. This young man actually lectured me. Huh? I looked at Astronaut in puzzlement. Do you two have some feud? Astronaut frowned slightly but still patiently explained to me. Sylvia. I didn't mean to lecture Uncle. I just want to correct Uncle's attitude. Stealing is wrong. Huh? Steal. Steal something? What does my dad steal in his own home? Dong, Pope or Kelbo? My dad was extremely aggrieved. Daughter. When did I steal something? Hey. Young man. I gave it to. When my dad got angry. His dialect came out. Sylvia. Come here. Astronaut beckoned to me. After I comforted my dad, I walked up to him. He took my hand. My dad, protecting his cub, suddenly raised his voice. Where are you putting your hand? I'll pretend I didn't see this matter. You quickly ask Uncle to put the thing back. Otherwise it will also implicate you. I turned to ask my dad. What did you take? My dad held up a fist-sized jadeite Pixiu. This is my birthday gift for you. This young man. He pointed at Astronaut. He insisted that I stole it. It turned out to be a misunderstanding. This is my dad. What's in his hand is a birthday gift for me. Not stolen. But why give me Pixiu? Is it hinting that I look like Pixiu? Dad's taste is as worrying as ever. I thought that after Astronaut heard my explanation, he would suddenly realize. But he didn't. He still frowned tightly and his tone became even more serious. Sylvia. The most important thing in being a person is to be neither humble nor arrogant. You must never be vain. And even must do despicable things. My dad started rolling up his sleeves. Young man. Which way are you on? Seeing that my dad was about to hit Astronaut, I spread my arms and stood in front of Astronaut. Dad. It's my birthday today. Calm down. Calm down my ass. This is my home. I can wear whatever I want and take whatever I want. This young man said I stole something. Can I bear it? Can I bear it? Dad. He is the top scorer in the college entrance examination. Oh. The young man may have misunderstood something. Come. Come. Sit down. Uncle will ask someone to make tea for you. I twitched the corner of my mouth. My dad's problem has never been corrected. As soon as he sees someone cultured, he looks at the other person with admiration. Who made him only graduate from primary school? Astronaut was completely confused. What's going on here? After Ariana finished watching the show, she finally stood up and said something sensible. Astronaut. Don't you know that this is Sylvia's home? Astronaut was petrified on the spot. On the second floor at Eris, the three of us were tasting tea, eating snacks and enjoying the scenery. My dad was sneaking around in the corner. I put down my teacup and held my forehead. Dad. If you have something to say, just say it. My dad gave a simple and honest smile and walked up to Astronaut and took out a notebook. Young man. Can you give Uncle an autograph? Astronaut. I know that at this moment, the complexity of Astronaut's inner world is no less than that of the wormhole principle. I said, Dad. Is it proper for you to ask a junior to sign for you? An elder? Why isn't it proper? Heroes are not judged by their origins. A jizz not a problem. He is the top scorer in the college entrance examination. The top scorer. I rolled my eyes. I nudged Astronaut's arm. Then give my dad an autograph. Otherwise, he won't be able to sleep tonight. Astronaut took the notebook with a confused look and signed his name. My dad happily left with the autograph. Halfway through, he turned back. Daughter, entertain your friend well. Just say whatever you want to eat or drink. By the way, young man, are you interested in coming to work in Uncle's company in the future? I couldn't bear it anymore. Dad. I'll go. After my dad left, Ariana also tactfully found an opportunity to leave. I waved in front of Astronaut. Hey, haven't your brain turned around yet? He looked at me ignorantly. His eyes gradually became clear from being dazed. Then, those eyes were filled with various emotions. Finally, he said, Sylvia, I always thought you. What? He weighed his words. You come from a pure family. Huh. Why do you have such a misunderstanding? Astronaut murmured and said, You told my mom that your family is in the waste recycling business. I nodded slightly. Yes, it's true that my parents made a fortune through waste recycling. I didn't say anything wrong. Astronaut put his long fingers to his forehead, and an embarrassed helplessness flowed through his eyes. Then why don't you sit on my sofa? I'm afraid I'll dirty it. You stare at the ant in the cafeteria like a hungry wolf every day and eat 5 meat buns at once. You said you haven't had meat for a long time. I thought you. Astronaut considered for a moment. Your family situation isn't very good. I scratched my head. Hey, that's what my mom did. She made some kind of nutritious meal plan for me and my dad. It's starving people. Then why did you go and collect waste on a whim? It's to experience life. Moreover, don't you think collecting waste can also exercise the body and improve the bargaining skills? Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. That day your dad came to pick you up on an electric scooter. He still wouldn't give up. Oh, that's Uncle Chen. Our driver's electric scooter. My dad hasn't ridden an electric scooter for a long time and wanted to have some fun. That night we took a ride along the river and caught a cold. But we were very happy. Astronaut didn't speak anymore. I know that his CPU is currently efficiently digesting this matter. His deeply ingrained 3 views are being restructured. After a long time, he let out a breath. Sylvia. You. I leaned in front of him. Less than an inch away from him, blinking my eyes. What about me? His eyes flickered, and his Adam's apple rolled up and down. The warm breath sprayed on my face. After a moment of silence, he shifted his gaze. Nothing. It was my own misunderstanding. I slapped my thigh. Exactly. I thought I didn't deceive you either. Seeing his sideways glance, my voice weakened a bit. It's just that what I did made you misunderstand. Indeed. Who would think that a rich second generation would go collect waste and devour 5 meat buns in one go? If it were me, I wouldn't believe it either. I was afraid that Astronaut's psychological gap would be too big. So I quickly comforted him. Actually, I'm not really a rich second generation. My dad just got lucky and made some money. There's not much cultural background. I envy your family. At first glance, it's a scholarly family. Does your dad like scholarly families very much? I nodded vigorously. He likes it extremely. He said that in the future. He must help me find a husband with cultural background. Really? His lips curved slightly, and his expression was pleasant. Your father has quite some ideas. 9 at 7 o'clock in the evening. The birthday banquet officially begins. All the classmates are here, including those girls who wanted to embarrass me. Sophia and her group looked at the super high cake, and their eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. Astronaut came to my side and whispered, I think they, like me, are having their three views shattered and restructured. Ariana asked me, do you want to insult them? I pondered and said, forget it. Let's just stuff them with cake and chocolate until they burst. In fact, there is no substantial enmity or love between us. There's no need to make a big deal out of it. Since it's a banquet, dancing is an essential part. I was eating cake when Ariana came up to me. Hey, will Astronaut invite you to dance later? I glanced at her stomach. Take it easy. Your stomach is about to explode. As the music started, Astronaut unsurprisingly walked towards me. To be honest, if I said I wasn't nervous, I'd be lying. If someone brought a blood pressure monitor over now, my blood pressure would definitely soar to 180. Astronaut walked up to me. He didn't bend down nor say, may I have this dance? Instead, he pointed at the corner of my mouth. You have cream on the corner of your mouth. My mood was like riding a roller coaster, falling straight from a high altitude to the ground. Whew. My heart is broken. But on the surface, I still pretended to be nonchalant and reached out to wipe it. In the next moment, Astronaut grabbed my hand. I looked at him in confusion. Let me. He extended his thumb and gently wiped off the cream at the corner of my mouth. His movements were extremely gentle, and his eyes were so tender that it seemed as if water could drip from them. My heart suddenly calmed down. I said, Astronaut, do you want to go to my secret base? Secret base? He raised an eyebrow. Puzzled. My secret base. You are the first person I tell. Even my parents and my dog. Gouda N. Don't know. Gouda N? Oh. My teddy dog. Astronaut. The secret base is in the back garden. There are no street lights in the back garden, but the clear moonlight falls on the ground, adding several layers of artistic conception. I said with a smile, this is my secret base. Astronaut looked around. There's nothing here? Except for the chirping of cicadas and the croaking of frogs. I gave a mysterious smile and pointed at the ground. It's inside. Astronaut put his hand to his forehead. Digging again? When I dug out the bottle from the soil, I opened the glass bottle. Inside were the marbles I played with when I was a child. Astronaut looked surprised. Your imagination is really different from ordinary people. You actually hide your childhood toys here? I'll take it as a compliment for now. Now I still do this. I put my memories in a bottle and bury it in the soil. When I have time, I go and take a look. If I forget, after 100 years, someone else will dig it out. Astronaut listened to my chatter, his eyes like flowing water, gently rippling. Sylvia, happy birthday, he said. I grinned. Thank you, Astronaut. How about you also write a sentence? I won't look. Then you put it in the bottle. In the future, we can open it together again? Okay. When he was writing, I wanted to take a peek, but he moved my head away and covered it so I couldn't see. I let out a sound. So mysterious. 10 in September. I refused my dad's offer to send me and took the high-speed rail to school by myself. He touched his Rolls-Royce and burst into tears, saying that his daughter has grown up and doesn't love him anymore. My mom pulled him back expressionlessly to prevent him from making a fool of himself in front of everyone. As soon as I entered the carriage, I saw Astronaut sitting not far away. He was wearing a light-colored sportswear, simple and refreshing. When he saw me, he waved. Quite a coincidence. I raised an eyebrow. Sure enough, our seats are together. He put my luggage away. Accidentally. A small section of his waist was exposed in the process. I quickly looked away. Sylvia, why is your face so red? After putting away the luggage, he asked me with concern. His peach blossom eyes were extremely innocent and pure. The compartment is too stuffy. My eyes wandered left and right, and I fanned myself with my palm. Really? There's air conditioning in the compartment. It's not hot. He looked at me meaningfully, as if trying to get some answers from my face. Does this guy have to argue with me? I gave him a blank look. Because I'm from the North Pole. The old lady and old man beside us said with a smile. Youth is so wonderful. Youth, combined with a scorching summer, has a taste. When we arrived at the school, both of us were covered in sweat and disheveled. The senior who received me took a look at our lists. Are you two siblings? We looked at each other. Do we look alike? Except for having the same last name. Astronaut and I have no similarities in facial features or temperament. But rumors spread easily. The rumor that Astronaut and I are siblings somehow spread throughout the whole school. As a recommended student, I actually don't attract much attention. But Astronaut is different. He was admitted to this institution as the provincial champion. He is a definite giant panda. Coupled with his extremely handsome appearance and outstanding temperament, he has become the campus male god in one stroke. As the sister of the male god, I received love letters and gifts until my hands were sore. Facing more love letters than exam papers, I asked Astronaut what to do. He said to do as I see fit. So, I wrote red on each love letter and sent it back. As for gifts, most of them are flowers and snacks. If they are sent back and forth again, they will probably go bad. I have gained 3 pounds in less than 2 months since I entered the school. Once, after weighing myself in the dormitory, I called Astronaut in distress. I will never collect love letters and gifts for you again. He held his breath and asked in a deep voice. Why? For some reason. I always felt that his tone was full of uneasiness and expectation. I sobbed. If I keep eating like this, I will follow in my dad's footsteps. Astronaut gritted his teeth and said, Sylvia, you pig. Hey, why the personal attack? After Astronaut scolded me, after a few hours, he sent me a message again. Come down. I have something to tell you. I was already lying in bed and really didn't want to move. I bought you a Jian Bing Guoz. Astronaut really knows how to hit the nail on the head. I'll come right away. As soon as I got downstairs, he said, accompany me to play basketball. Only then did I notice that he was wearing a basketball uniform. To be honest, he is really handsome. Where's the Jian Bing Guoz? He rolled his eyes. I'll buy it for you after we finish playing basketball. Okay. Brother. He gave me a blank look. Who is your brother? Don't recognize relatives randomly. I stood on tiptoe and hooked my arm around his neck. Oh. Anyway. The whole school thinks we are siblings. Let's just act as if it's true. Isn't this great? He pushed away my hand and coldly threw out a sentence. Great my ass. TSK. Even the only seedling of a scholarly family swears. I originally thought Astronaut was a bookworm. But it turns out he's not bad at playing basketball either. With a 3-step layup the high jump, under the streetle twide. His posture is like a sparrow hawk. For a moment, I was stunned. That inner monologue popped up again. You're in trouble. Sylvia. You're falling in love. After Astronaut finished playing basketball, he walked towards me. We are quite in sync now. As soon as he reached out, I handed him the water. He drank it up with his head raised and returned the bottle to me tacitly. This is the tacit understanding we reached by collecting waste together. After doing all this, he leaned down. To be honest, at this moment I thought he was going to kiss me. I subconsciously wanted to escape. But my heels seemed stuck to the ground, and couldn't move. Just when 1,000 alpacas were galloping in my heart, He reached out and brushed away the catkins on my head. There's something dirty on your head, he said. The alpacas in my heart instantly stopped. They crashed into each other one after another. And there were whales everywhere. Why do I have a strong sense of disappointment? Astronaut. Pay attention to your influence in public. In case someone doesn't know that Sylvia is your sister, then your sister's love prospects will be ruined by you, his basketball buddy said with a grin. Astronaut straightened up, his eyes darkened, and his thin lips parted slightly. She's not my sister in the first place. Others can pursue her. Why can't I? In the evening, I returned to the dormitory. Astronaut sent me a message. What are you thinking? I thought for a moment and replied to him. Is this taking advantage of proximity or a rabbit eating the grass near its nest? Astronaut replied quickly, both. In fact, deep down, I like Astronaut. But because we are too familiar, it's a bit embarrassing to make a move. If I were to say to him, hey, I like you, shall we be in a relationship? It's easy to say those words. But what then? In case we break up halfway, we won't even be able to be friends then. So, in order for us to be friends forever, I compressed this little thought into a compressed file and hid it deep in my heart. No one knows except me. Looking at the love letters written to Astronaut by others, sometimes I would imagine writing a sincere and passionate love letter to him myself. The beginning would be, seeing these words is like seeing you in person. Unfortunately, imagination is just imagination. I hid this feeling under banter and tried to dilute it with water, but never expected that Astronaut would be the first to break through this layer of window paper. Astronaut directly called me. I know what you are worried about. But don't worry. I don't have many other merits. I just like to be faithful. I smiled. My dad said that life is a gamble. He bet right and became a successful person. Married my mom. So I have such a clever and intelligent daughter. Then, I will also follow in my father's footsteps, and learn a little bit of his carefree manner. Okay. Day 1 of our relationship. I was gloriously injured. Here's the specific reason. Astronaut wanted to imitate a 20 for filial piety boyfriend and bring me breakfast early in the morning. As a popular figure in school, his appearance always causes quite a stir. So as Astronaut's girlfriend, I actually saw him through short videos. In the video, he leaned against the wall, holding breakfast in his hand. Dressed simply, he stood like a green bamboo. The bullet comments in the video were exploding. Sentences of husband, look at me, almost filled the screen. I gritted my teeth. Before confirming our relationship, I had no right to be jealous. But now, slowly, a line of words appeared in my eyes. Anyone who stands in my way will die. I immediately got ready to let everyone know that I am Astronaut's girlfriend. He is taken. Unfortunately, being too nervous, I stepped on a bomb in appeal that someone didn't know who had thrown. I directly rolled down the stairs extremely smoothly, and knelt straight in front of Astronaut. On both knees. Astronaut was so scared that he threw the breakfast in his hand and hurriedly came forward to help me up. I was so dizzy from the fall, that as soon as I opened my mouth, I said, I know that kneeling on one knee is for proposing marriage, and kneeling on both knees is for visiting a grave. But I definitely don't mean to visit your grave. Astronaut pulled me up with a black line on his face. After confirming that both our knees were gloriously injured, his eyes were filled with pity. I'll carry you to the infirmary. No need. I can walk by myself. Carry on my back or hug. You choose one. Astronaut was adamant. Then carry on the back. When he carries me on his back, at least I can bury my head on his back and reduce the degree of embarrassment. Astronaut carried me on his back and paused for a moment. I scratched my head in embarrassment. Sorry. I've gained a little weight recently. Just 5 or 6 pounds. Astronaut's voice with a smile came. It's okay. Even if you are a mountain, it's also a sweet burden. I patted his shoulder. Comrade, please be normal. Cheesy love words don't suit you. Astronaut's back was thick and warm. Lying on his back, I was completely relaxed. In the past, my dad often carried me on his back. When they were busy, I would play beside them, dealing with garbage and waste all year round. Dad had a strange smell, but I felt extremely at ease. After he finished his work, he would pick me up, prick me with his beard, and after making me giggle, he would carry me on his back again. I asked Dad, "Dad, am I heavy?" He said, "I hope you are a little heavier." Now, my dad can't carry me anymore. But there is someone else. Astronaut. You have a smell. I said. Astronaut stopped and smelled himself awkwardly. I took a bath and changed clothes this morning. There is a smell that makes me feel at ease. Astronaut was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth. Sylvia, please don't speak in such a way that makes people hold their breath. Okay? Because my knee was injured. The school doctor said not to let the knee touch water for the time being. If it weren't for the dorm supervisor aunt stopping him, Astronaut would almost live in my dormitory. Because he is so good looking and has a sweet mouth. The dorm supervisor aunt gave him special treatment. So, my roommates are fed dog food crazily by us every day. Once, during an open class, because my knee was inconvenient, I asked for leave. Astronaut ran back halfway through the class, still holding a medicine bag in his hand. I'll come and apply medicine for you. He stood at the door of the dormitory, looking very serious. I chuckled. A top student is a top student. The excuse for skipping class is so fresh and refined. He gave me a rap on the head. You ungrateful little thing. Who are you calling ungrateful? He pressed me down on the chair and knelt on one knee to apply medicine for me. Those long and curly eyelashes trembled slightly with his movements. Astronaut has a pair of expressive eyes. When he stares at you directly, you will be deeply attracted and unable to extricate yourself. Some people are extremely serious, but they are flirtatious without realizing it. It should be said of Astronaut. When my roommates finished class and came back, they saw this scene. Everyone clicked their tongues. We'll leave. You continue. But on the premise that you have to give each of us a cup of milk tea to keep us quiet. Keep quiet then. You won't die from getting fat. My relationship with Astronaut soon spread. The Fanglers who once liked Astronaut came to find me in groups. To be honest, I'm very afraid that I'll be beaten from a steamed bun into a steamed roll. They invited me to a bookstore. I sent a message to Astronaut. Don't come looking for me. Just come and collect my body. By the way, I gave him a location. When Astronaut came in a hurry, out of breath and sweating profusely, I was holding hands with his Fanglers and laughing so hard that my gums were almost showing. Really? It's so funny. If you still want to hear more, we can make an appointment again. I'm not good at anything else, but I'm extremely good at storytelling. Yeah. Let's exchange contacts. Okay. I smiled and took out my phone. Astronaut. I know what he is thinking. He must be thinking that his girlfriend must have social butterfly syndrome. In fact, Astronaut and I are not always loving and affectionate. We will also argue vehemently about study matters until we are red in the face. Even vulgar language comes out. Every time during experiments, the classmates in the same group stay far away from us, for fear of being affected. My roommate said that Astronaut and I are a perfect match, because if it were someone else, they would have been completely defeated by us long ago. After the final exams, Astronaut and I go home together. This time, my dad overcomes all difficulties to pick me up at the station. Seeing me coming out of the exit, he runs over quickly. Daughter, you've had a hard time. Oh, you've lost a lot of weight. Didn't you eat well? You've also tanned. Dad is heartbroken. Come, daughter. Let me carry this for you. Thank you. Astronaut stands awkwardly in place and lets my dad snatch the luggage from his hand. I purse my lips. Dad, did you forget about Astronaut? No. I didn't forget. The top scorer in the college entrance examination. How could Dad forget? I let out a sigh of relief. So you don't object to us dating anymore, right? My dad is silent for a full minute. Then he smiles nonchalantly. My daughter is in a relationship. My dad gives Astronaut a jealous look. Sitting in my dad's Rolls Royce, I say to Astronaut, I'll take you home first. It's okay. Just drop me off at the subway station. Yes. He's right. Young people should walk more. After saying that, he steps on the gas and can't wait to fly to the subway station immediately. When we arrive at the subway station, my dad stops the car and stares at Astronaut intently. Under his intense gaze, Astronaut waves goodbye to me. As soon as he puts down his luggage, the car shoots out like an arrow leaving the bow. Dad, don't you like Astronaut? I ask him directly. My dad remains silent. After a long while, he says through gritted teeth, he dares to take my precious cabbage without my consent. I just gave you face and didn't hit him just now. What about your admiration back then? Me. 12. Although my dad doesn't like Astronaut. Because I like him. He can only compromise. He tells me, daughter, Dad won't interfere with your relationship. But you must know how to be proper. For everything. You have to do it step by step. Understand? He said it very implicitly. But I understand. I assure him again and again. In fact, Astronaut respects me very much. Since we started dating, we have only kissed, hugged, and lifted each other up. There are no more excessive actions. Only once, when we went outside school to do a survey, we suddenly encountered a thunderstorm, which caused a landslide. We couldn't go back and could only stay temporarily in a nearby hotel. Because there was only one room left, we had to squeeze in. The small hotel didn't even have hot water. So Astronaut went to the boss to boil hot water, and made several trips back and forth. Seeing that he had been tired all day but kept running errands for me, I felt very sorry. But he said, wash up quickly, or you'll catch a cold. That night, I slept soundly while he stayed awake all night. The door of the hotel was also broken. I really want to tell my dad. When I was young, it was you who loved and protected me. And now, there will be another person who will also love and protect me the same way. Daughter is not at a loss. For years pass in a flash. When we throw our bachelor's caps into the air, there is a sense of lament that youth is gone forever. But this is also another new beginning. Astronaut and I both entered the research institute right after graduation. Well, we research aerospace. After 4 years of working, we got married. For the marriage of my only daughter. My dad wishes he could give me all the good things. Astronaut and I refused. We simply fall in love and get married naturally. 1 house. 2 people. 3 meals a day. 4 seasons a year. That's enough. After being busy, we can lean against each other. Sit on the balcony. Watch the clouds roll and unwind. Watch the setting sun. And look at the sky. There is our country's space station over there. My dad also knows that what we research is very great. He gives me a card and tells me, no matter what you do, Dad will support you. Dad. Thank you. Silly daughter. Dad looks up at the sky. Back then, I was just an orphan with nothing and made a living by picking up trash. Later, I met your mom. I fell in love with her at first sight. At the first sight of her, I envisioned our whole life in my mind. Do you know? Actually, during your summer vacation after freshman year, Astronaut came to see me. I am surprised. He told me that at the first sight of you, he was sure of you. He wanted to make himself excellent and strong enough to protect you. He said that he only wants to be with you for the rest of his life. He is so sincere. When he said those words, he was very much like me back then. So I approved of him at that time. I smiled. Who made me your daughter? My taste in choosing a partner is top-notch. In the evening, Astronaut comes to pick me up. I hook his neck with a smile. Do you want to go to our secret base? His eyes and brows are like the spring breeze. Sure. I dig out a bottle which contains the note that astronaut wrote back then. I see the note on it that says, Sylvia, I like you. For the rest of my life. I only wish to share the afterglow with you and look at the rosy clouds. The end.